So, I've got to tell you about this bizarre situation I found myself in. Picture this. I'm scrolling through Tinder, just trying to distract myself from the usual university stress, and I stumble upon this profile that seems almost too good to be true. The guy claims he's 45, but honestly, he could easily pass for early 30s. His profile says he's looking for a sugar baby and is willing to pay $700 weekly. And get this, no sex involved. As a perpetually broke student, I couldn't resist swiping right, and boom, it's a match. I get this message almost immediately. Hey there, sweetheart. Ugh, I cringe a bit because I hate being called sweetheart. But hey, $700 is $700, right? So, I reply with a casual, hey, and try to play it cool. He introduces himself as Jack, mentioning he owns some business, though he keeps it annoyingly vague about what kind. We chat a bit, and then he asks for my Venmo to send me the first payment. When I see that $700 notification, I'm in disbelief. I stare at it for what feels like forever, half expecting to wake up from this dream. But nope, it's real. Then Jack messages again, asking if I'm still there. I respond with a simple yeah, and muster up the courage to ask what he wants in return. His reply is just as vague as before. I'm just looking for you to do a few favors for me. My mind immediately jumps to the worst-case scenario. I mean, favors? Come on. But then he says he just needs me to pick up a delivery. It sounds harmless enough, right? But really, $700 for a package pickup? I'm skeptical but curious. He sends me an address, not through Tinder, of course. We switch to texting, and he gives me the rundown. I'm supposed to grab a package and drop it off at his house. He even tells me where the spare key is so I can let myself in. I hop in my car, still in disbelief about this whole deal, and head to the address. The place looks like it's been forgotten by time. A run-down house with a fence barely holding together, surrounded by much nicer homes. As I stand there, this huge, tattooed guy named Julio emerges from the house, and I can't help but feel a bit on edge. He's intimidating, to say the least. He tells me to stay put while he fetches the package. When he returns, he hands me this damp, stained, shoebox-sized package and asks me to pop the trunk. I oblige, not wanting that mess on my seats. As I'm about to leave, he casually tells me to watch out, which only adds to my growing anxiety. On the drive to Jack's place, I try to drown out my nerves with loud music. Jack's house is a whole different world. Huge, with these grand stone pillars and a perfectly manicured lawn. I grab the package, let myself in, and lock the door as instructed. The place is insanely luxurious, and I can't help but marvel at how much it must have cost to decorate. I drop off the package, and as I'm leaving, I hear a phone ringing somewhere. My gut tells me not to answer, especially after checking my own phone and seeing a text from Jack, warning me only to pick up calls from someone named Marvin. The caller ID says it's Jack, but I decide to play it safe and head out, making sure to lock up behind me. This wasn't a one-time thing. Jack keeps asking for these strange favors. I've switched cars in different cities, delivered mysterious briefcases, and even spent time with Julio at that creepy house. All in all, I've made about $3,500, which is insane, but also unnerving. The weirdest request came when Jack asked me to spend a night at his house. He promised $1,000 for the night, but of course there were rules, bizarre ones. I couldn't turn on the faucets between 9 and 11 p.m., couldn't open the door for anyone after 10 p.m., and had to leave the TV on static all night. There was even a mention of hiding if a gardener showed up knocking on windows. I was supposed to follow all these rules to the letter. Despite my better judgment, I spent the night there. Around 10:16 p.m., the doorbell started ringing. First it was supposedly the police, then Jack, and then others, each demanding to be let in. I stuck to the rules and ignored them all, though my heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest. When morning came, I found Jack in the kitchen, cheerily making scrambled eggs as if nothing was amiss. It was the first time I'd seen him in person, and he looked exactly like his pictures. The whole thing felt surreal, but I played along, eager to leave. When I got home, I realized I'd forgotten to follow one of his crucial rules, keeping the TV on static. I hoped it wasn't a big deal, but then I got a text from Jack saying he was out of town. My stomach dropped. If Jack wasn't in town, then who was in the house with me? Before I could process it, another text came in from an unknown number, asking if I'd forgotten something, punctuated with a winking emoji. It was followed by a picture of Jack standing by the TV. The final straw was a photo of my house from the outside. The message was clear. Watch out. And that's where I'm at now, caught in this strange and unsettling web. I'm wondering what I've gotten myself into and how to get out of it. It's like living in a real-life thriller, and honestly, I'm not sure what's going to happen next. Just when I thought I was in over my head with my own mystery, life had another surprise in store, courtesy of my eccentric neighbor. You know, living next to a wannabe YouTube star is a unique kind of exhausting. My neighbor, bless his heart, was always coming up with these ridiculous stunts. Picture this. He's out there coughing up cinnamon, sliding off the hood of his car as it rolls down the driveway, or drenching himself in lukewarm water, all while shouting something like, "Epic win!" or more often, "Epic fail." Honestly, it got to the point where watching his antics became a daily test of patience. I was half expecting one of his harebrained schemes to spill over into my life one day. So when he knocked on my door recently, saying he was leaving for a few weeks and asked if I could collect his mail, I practically sighed with relief. Finally, a break from the madness. For a few blissful days, all was quiet on our street. I picked up his mail, the usual mix of bills, junk, and what looked like a birthday card. Pretty standard stuff. But then, one evening, I came home to find this massive cardboard box sitting on his porch. It had "Return to Sender" scrawled across it in big red letters. Now, I'm no weakling, but man, that box was heavy. I wrestled it across the street to my place, realizing pretty quickly that there was no way I was getting it up my stairs. My garage seemed like the best spot to stash it since my car sat in the driveway anyway, thanks to a stubborn garage door that only budged after a good kick and a curse or two. So there I was, kicking the door a third time when the box slipped from my grip and hit the ground with a worrying crack. "Shit," I muttered, hoping I hadn't broken anything important. But hey, I figured my neighbor could assume whatever was inside broke on its cross-country journey, right? Once the door finally groaned open, I dragged the box inside and shoved it into a corner, promptly forgetting about it. A few days passed before I noticed a smell creeping into my house. At first I thought it was a skunk or some other roadkill nearby, but the odor grew stronger instead of fading, so I decided to investigate. Opening the garage door, I was hit with a stench that nearly knocked me over. It didn't take long to identify the box as the source. I remember thinking, this has got to be some meat subscription box gone bad. But seriously, how much meat do you have to order for it to weigh that much? Enough for a whole cow? Armed with scissors, I approached the box, pinching my nose against the growing stench. The bottom was already soggy enough to poke through, but no way was I sticking my hand in there. I had to open it and deal with the mess, one bag at a time. As I cut through the tape, I thought I was prepared for the worst. But when I flipped those flaps open, the odor hit me like a ton of bricks. It was a cocktail of piss, sweat, and decay so potent I almost lost my lunch. I ran out for fresh air, but the stink clung to my clothes like a bad memory. No amount of air freshener, face masks, or showers could rid me of that smell. It was time to face the music. I went back in, equipped with a clothespin for my nose, garbage bags, and rubber gloves. But as it turned out, I didn't need any of those things. The box didn't contain spoiled meat from a farm animal. It was my neighbor. Dead, all in one piece, but undeniably gone. I called the cops, who naturally hauled me in for questioning. I mean, it's not every day you find a body in your garage, right? Luckily, they figured out pretty quickly that I wasn't involved. Despite my DNA all over the box, the smell permeating my house, there was one piece of evidence that cleared me: his vlogging camera. The police showed me the footage just once, probably breaking some rule or maybe just taking pity on me. In it, my neighbor was sitting in the box outside a shipping facility, gleefully explaining his plan to mail himself across state lines. He had pee bottles, snacks, a pillow, and flashlights. His friend, who I'd seen helping him with stunts before, sealed him in and presumably dropped him off. Over the next few hours, or days, who knows, he filmed himself periodically. "I think I'm in a truck now," he'd say, or, "It's pretty warm, still got plenty of food." Then came the last entry, the box tipping over. He broke his neck just like that. The camera kept rolling until it filled up or the battery died. There's one thing I didn't mention to the cops, though. Something from the footage that still haunts me. Right after the fall that ended it all, I heard a sound I knew all too well. The screech of my garage door opening. Speaking of haunting memories, there's something about Christmas that still lingers in my mind. So I've got this story, and it's a bit wild, but bear with me. It all started with me being a pretty terrible kid. I wasn't just the usual mischievous brat. I was downright cruel and strategic about it. You know how some people say they were bullies and they regret it? Well, I was one of those kids, and I really did some awful things. There was this boy in my class, Thomas. He was small, always wearing clothes that never quite fit right, like he was swimming in hand-me-downs. His family didn't have much, and everyone knew it since the school covered his lunch fees. To me, he was an easy target. I thought he was pathetic, and I took advantage of that. I remember our class Secret Santa vividly. Thomas opened his gift, a cheap football. But you should have seen his face. He looked like he was holding a treasure. That football was probably the best gift he'd see that Christmas. But what did I do? I walked up to him later, made some nasty comment about his mom's clothes, and snatched the ball right out of his hands. I booted it high onto the gym roof, watching as his joy just drained away. It was like this brief hollow satisfaction that made my own crappy life feel a bit lighter. Things took a turn after that. It was late, sometime after midnight, and I was asleep, dreaming up my next mean-spirited scheme, when I heard a whisper outside my room. Curiosity got the better of me, and I slipped out of bed. The whisper was soft, almost angelic, and it led me downstairs. The house felt strange, the first snow of the season casting an eerie glow through the window. In the living room, the cookies we'd left out for Santa were gone, just crumbs left behind. The whispers seemed to come from the chimney, and as I peered into its darkness, everything went silent. Suddenly, a red stocking cap was pulled over my head, blinding me. A powerful force yanked me into the fireplace, the heat biting at my skin as I was sucked upwards. It felt like gravity had flipped and I was falling skyward, scraping against the chimney walls. I landed in a massive sack and everything went black. When I came to, a dozen pairs of eyes were staring down at me. I was lying on a thin mattress in a dimly lit room that reeked of old wood and varnish. "Where am I?" I asked, pulling myself up, still sore but no longer bruised. A boy, maybe 8, with sad eyes told me, "You're in the workshop, same as the rest of us." Another kid chimed in, "This is where you work off your debt." Before I could even process, this bell rang, and every kid dove into their bunks. The door burst open, revealing this grotesque creature, like a starved version of the Grinch with olive green skin. It barked at us to line up, and we marched down to the lacquer hall, a vast, intimidating place with kids working silently at benches. I was assigned to paint footballs, the same kind I kicked away from Thomas. The overseer, some eerie figure in red, watched us from a platform, never moving. We were warned. No talking, no mistakes, or our debt would increase. It was grueling. A kid spilled paint, and in a flash, an elf dragged him away. I whispered to the boy next to me, asking what happened. He said they'd come back, but changed. We lived on thin porridge and a single orange slice. It was always dark outside, what the kids called the longest night. One night, I admitted to my bunkmates that I was a bully, that I regretted my actions. They all had their own stories of stealing joy from others, and now we were here paying the price. Then, a chance for redemption came. During a distraction in the workshop, I managed to swipe a small wooden angel. That night, while everyone slept, I gave it to a girl named Mary who cried herself to sleep every night. Her smile when she received the angel felt like a light in that dark place. In that moment of giving, something shifted. I felt a cold rush, the world blurred, and next thing I knew I was back in my backyard, covered in soot and snow. My bruises were gone, and I knew I had to make things right. First on my list was finding Thomas, to apologize, to somehow make amends for the joy I stole from him. And that's how I learned the truth about Santa's workshop and the real work done there. It's a place where you pay for the joy you steal, and where redemption isn't just a dream. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more crazy stories.